Sup nerds, you are probably wondering what we're showing here today. And it is this thing. The other bucket got this after seeing some reviews that said it was good, but what is it? It is the Magix 040 from Ampound. This is of course advertised specifically for the DS and vertical arcade games, and honestly this thing looks fantastic. The D-pad feels very good, very quiet, but it is that old mushy membrane that the old DS Lite used to have. The analog stick feels great, it feels good for those DS games you'd rather use a stick for. LNR triggers are the same way, also very quiet but a little bit clickier. The face buttons are a little bit clicky too, but still membrane buttons. Start and select are clicky, just like the original DS Lite start and select buttons. The front firing speakers are great. This form factor is very comfortable to hold. It's almost like a Game Boy Micro with a grip attached to it, because it just rests in your hand. Very nice actually. It also has a audio jack, as you can see. OTG is how you transfer games to it. The C is the charging port. Other than that, it's pretty plain. Volume up and down here on the side. No active cooling, just passive, but that's where the heatsink is. The screen is very nice and has touch, and even the stock launcher is pretty decent. In fact, this is the first time that this bucket has kept a stock launcher, which is called the Dawn launcher, made specifically for this device. It lets you scroll through the list of games here. LNR jumps several at a time. And here at the bottom is the actual list of platforms that you can emulate, which once you get out of the DS menu here, the R1 will scroll through the different platforms. Despite this not being a Super Nintendo game, the art is fairly good. So yeah, this is a fast and snappy launcher, and it is pretty clean. And though this bucket added his own scrape games, it does have its own scrapper built into it. And of course, it does also have this add to favorite system. And just on the front page, you can access the other Android apps, as well as the custom settings, which is very convenient. Something Emulation Station didn't do until very recently. And you can even change the performance profile for the CPU, globally or per platform or even per game. Of course, it has emulators pre-installed, which for the most part those are what this bucket uses, without having replaced most of them. He did add his own version of the SyncThing fork though, so that he can send the save files over Wi-Fi to other devices, like his Metroid Pocket Mini. Since this is running just a custom version of Android, you can't just do that in the background. This button here is technically both back and home at the same time. Tapping it once is back, and holding it will go home no matter where you are. It's a very good system and it works across all platforms. So when we talk about modding it, of course we can add our own apps and stuff, customize some settings. But the one thing this bucket had to complain about when using it in comparison to the original DS was the touch screen, which is great, but it doesn't feel the same just using your finger. And this is a nice custom setup for Drastic made just for this device. So some people complained that this screen was too small to do things like precision tapping in this. And it is still fairly usable, but this bucket added his own stylus slot into it. Of course, he needs to clean it up a little bit, but still fully functional. It's amazing how much room is in this little thing. And Drastic menu comes with the hotkeys pre-configured so that you can have fast forward with R2 and screen swap with L2, which is actually very convenient for some games that does require a lot of touch controls at the bottom. You can just change it to the top so that your thumb is not strained as much. One thing this bucket was skeptical about was the screen being so small and not being integer scale, technically. But once you did play around with it, the screen did feel fantastic, and it personally was not able to notice. It definitely still feels like an upgraded screen. The sound is great, of course, pretty typical of Android speakers, but the stereo is great. Now, when comparing to the screen of the original DS, it truly is an upgrade in terms of glare and colors. And the size difference is definitely there. As you can see, this is definitely smaller, but it is not incredibly different. Everything this bucket tried on this is very playable. It's almost like a DS Micro. Sure, it doesn't fold, but it is smaller when held out this way, and super comfortable. So, despite not being a substitute for a daily driver DS, it is still a pretty fantastic device. And when compared to something like the 3DS, which is very comfortable, good sized, and not having integer scaling, you won't notice immediately, especially because the screen does look fairly good. But comparing the 3DS to the DS side by side, you can definitely tell that the 3DS is a lot less crisp and clear than on a original DS with actual integer scaling. Just looking at the text here, you can see everything popping and having nice edges, whereas in 3DS, it is definitely blurred. But here with Magic 4D Zero, we still get the crisp pixels, which looks very similar. Not to mention, the original DS hardware has a lot of motion blur, whereas here in the emulation side, it doesn't. Of course, it does do other systems as well, but it definitely is not its main purpose. But honestly, as mentioned before, it does feel like playing on a Game Boy Micro with a grip. So the screen isn't actually small when it comes to other platforms, it's just noticeable because of the huge gap there. Everything is super comfortable to play, and when you play it at night in bed, you won't notice that gap. Even though it does feel like wasted real estate on the screen, for these older systems, you won't be using anything below this, even control wise. One thing that this bucket wanted to point out was that with emulation, not only do you get save states and fast forward, but this thing is just powerful enough for a little bit of upscaling as well. So you can see the blockiness and pixels of Mega Man especially, same with the enemies. But here on emulation side, it is pretty cleaned up. The 2x resolution definitely helps a lot in smoothing the look over. So yeah, that's what we had to show and say about that. Make of that what you will, but we definitely think that this is, at the very least, a very interesting device. Anyway, always nerd on.